Tesleen Jasani is an intuitive leadership expert and works with high achieving women who are ready to break free from burnout, self doubt, and overwhelm, helping them transform into confident leaders who stand out in the crowd with their own authentic leadership style. So please welcome to the stage, Tesleen.
Hi, Tara. Thank you so much for having me.
I mean, I identify so strongly with being a high performing woman who is always on the brink of burnout. So, where do we begin, working ourselves out of this?
Yeah, when we're overwhelmed, high achieving women, we want to balance everything, right? At
Mhm.
once. We're trying to balance a whole bunch of things in our personal life, in our work life. And when you're a high achiever, you just want to clearly achieve the best, right? So there's a lot going on there. And what happens is when we're using too much of our internal resources, our energy, and our brain power, we actually tend to become very reactive versus
Mm.
intuitive and proactive. And that's usually the cycle we get caught up in where we end up in burnout because we're using too much of our resources instead of just allowing our intuition to come forward.
So, if I'm not using my intuition, what am I using?
That's a really good question
Mm.
because a lot of people have that question and they'll ask things like, am I operating out of fear or out of intuition? Or what does
Mm.
that feel like when it's intuition?
Mhm.
And if you aren't using your intuition, what it will feel like is it'll feel like literally like you're very reactive to things. Something's happening to you, and
Mhm.
you can actually feel what you're doing is you're using emotion to try to
Mm.
solve the problem.
Mhm.
And, something people don't know is you're actually not your emotions.
Okay. Oh, that was already very freeing. I am not my emotions. It's true. Yeah, they just kind of pass through me. So I love that. Walk me through then. If I'm feeling reactive, what am I looking for? What do I identify from that point?
Absolutely. So, those moments when someone's, for example, made a decision and you're just like, what is happening here? And you can feel something rising inside of
Mhm.
you, possibly anger or something happening. Well, in that moment, what you want to do is actually take a step back from the situation because what we normally do is we start to create this story around it. We're like,
Mm.
why is this happening to me? But actually, initially, what's happening is we're getting a rise in emotion in our body that wants us to feel something about the situation. But
Mm.
that doesn't mean we have to respond to the emotion because, just like you said, emotions go up and down. And if we actually just allow ourselves to feel what's happening in our body first, we can let that emotional response come back down to a place where we feel more neutral. And then we
Mm.
can respond from a place that comes from centered, where we've removed the story, we've come out of that emotional response, and now we're responding from a place of clarity and groundedness to the situation that's happening.
Mm. You're reminding me of that famous Pema Chodron quote, to feel the feeling and release the story. So now that I've in this neutral place, what do I do from here?
That's a really great question. Interestingly enough, when you are in that neutral place, you're actually just going to know what you want to do. And
Mm.
sometimes the answer is, I'm not going to do anything actually because this situation's happening and it's out of my control. I'm just going to focus on what is in my control. Sometimes you may be like, I want to do something about this. But when you do, it's just going to feel from a place where you're not pushing or trying or forcing. It's just
Yeah.
going to naturally come out and you are unattached from the outcome. And that actually feels so good to be talking from a place of that versus that frustration of why aren't they responding to what I'm asking for.
I feel like you've given me the gift of time. I'm going to save so much time by not reacting to situations. But also, sometimes that story is exciting to tell. So how do I release that expectation? Like, how do I release the story? Because, what else am I going to talk about?
This is so true. And I can't even tell you the amount of times I've got caught with, no, but they did this. And then, that energy of sharing with other people and
Mhm.
everything. What I encourage you to do in those moments is to just ask yourself the question after you share the story, do you actually feel better? Or do you
Mhm.
feel sometimes worse?
Mhm.
Or sometimes helpless, or even maybe sometimes like you need to tell the story again. You
Yeah.
know, the more we want to tell the story, the more we want to feed the story. And
Yeah.
oftentimes when I'm talking to people, they say, I actually feel worse after, like nothing actually changed. And I
Mhm.
just feel more angry or I feel more, whatever, frustrated.
Yeah.
So that's what helps is yes, it's addictive to get into the story, 100%. But just like any addiction, I'll call it, we have
Yeah.
to pull ourselves away from the thing that's keeping us in that cycle. And
Yeah.
actually, the feeling of calm after and
Yeah.
detachment actually feels so much better that you can, again, like you said, save energy,
It
right?
really,
That's what we
really
want.
is.
So we're not burnt out and overwhelmed.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Calm and detachment over burnout every single day. So Tesleen, where can people take action? Like if they feel like they need help, developing this process and learning more about, being better people, where can they learn more about you?
Absolutely. You can hop on over to my website, www.taslimjasani.com. I have lots of information on there, and I'm also on social media channels. You may enjoy some of my videos where I talk more about these, and I give a lot of tips to female leaders on how you can approach different scenarios. So feel free to do that. Check me out on social media and send me a message if you'd like, and we can always chat as well.